fucking truck that hauls around the beer. There's guys that own the fucking distribution companies. So they'll just show up with a fucking truck full of beer, and it is about, if you don't drink, you're not part of the group.
All right, dudes, we are live with another Pangburn Hangout.
Sorry.
It's Thursday, The Inquiry with Daltsu. Today we're talking about the occult. This will be interesting. How many of us have had girlfriends that have been into like tarot card reading and crystal ball reading and all kinds of readings? I don't know. I've had a few.
I mean, yes.
For sure. You're Sagittarius? Like, we totally can't hang out anymore.
My ex believed in ghosts.
My ex.
I'm not joking. She seriously did.
That's hilarious.
Why did I get Eeyore vibes from that very hard?
Oh, no.
What's an Eeyore?
Winnie the Pooh. It's one of them.
Yeah.
By the way, wait,
No.
Family Guy, just seriously do yourself a favor if you want to laugh before you sleep tonight. YouTube Family Guy Eeyore. He's like all, and Pooh's like, Eeyore, why are you always so bothered? And then he's like, I have a nail in my anus.
Seriously. But he keeps hammering a fucking nail in my ass.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing, too, because every time you see Pooh come over and steal Rabbit's food, and he's just like, I don't know why he's so upset all the time. Like, dude, you just broke into his house, and you're eating his honey. You're such a dick.
Another thing,
6 times.
I have to say this one more, but the other one is Winnie the Pooh is stuck in a hole in a tree, and then and then he's bent over through the hole. You can't see what's going on behind him, and usually the gag is one of the animals is trying to push him out of the hole. And Pooh looks back and says, Rabbit, do you have to use your fist to get me out of here? And then the voice of the rabbit is like, don't worry about it. You kind of have to say that one. But anyways,
The magic the magic of Winnie the Pooh. Hasn't it entrenched us all?
Why would he call him Winnie the Pooh, by the way?
The Pooh Bear.
Type of bear.
I'm not totally sure, but I believe that Winnie the Pooh has Taoist roots. I might be wrong. I might just be the Tao of Pooh might be something else. But
I've heard that before just now.
Now, are we sure that doesn't have anything to do with German scat porn? I'm just curious.
It's German scout porn is a very important part of the Tao, you see, and so to separate those things is a mistake. Anyway, magic. Off of German porn. So yeah, I guess we should get the most contentious stuff out of the way. Like, what do you guys? So yeah, I guess what's like the average day-to-day encounter you have with quote-unquote magic, and whoever's interested. Go.
I would say for me it's zero. Next person.
I'd say it doesn't happen very often. Like never.
I live near Daltsu in California, and it's everywhere, every day, all over the fucking place in this area. There's places you can go get rocks. There's places that are mysticism healings. There are places you can go get all of your essential oils at. There's places you can go get your spirit lifted. Anywhere near a wooded area, I would say there are shacks you can go visit and have many of the spirits cleaned of your soul.
So do you think crackheads are just being spiritual?
It feels like that, yes. It feels like that.
So I'm just getting my rocks.
Like 3 hours of some lady chanting about your essence, and you're like, you gave me nothing tangible in what you just said for the past 3 hours. It was like really bad poetry.
Yeah, I feel like I get a lot of that. Freaking psychics and stuff who you go in there and they just give you some vague monologue about how like you have a long lifeline, so you're gonna live a long time. You're gonna have a lot of wealth.
So you've been to a
If you go to
site
like rich
before.
areas, like California, if you go to like really, really rich areas, high-end wealth, man, there's always some fucking mysticism chakra place in some auto mall right around the corner, and it is taxed out. It is over like mainly female addressed, like housewife addressed areas where they're just trying to get back in touch, like with themselves in a way, I guess, but. It's like you open a shop about mysticism, you know, in the Bay Area or something like that, and like you're fine, you're good, your business will be around for quite some time.
Yeah, and they also do festivals. Like they'll travel around and just not even have a house. They'll be nomads essentially without the tech necessarily anyway. What's the other one that's big in like Europe? Like you put a tiny drop of lemon oil in the water, and that will cure cancer. What is that? Homeopathy? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone's experienced that one, but that one's probably my least favorite.
Well, do you know what the rules for something to be considered homeopathic in the United States? It would basically, so if you have a gallon of water and you take an eyedropper of beer and just put one drop of beer in that water, they can say, "Oh, this is homeopathic beer." Like that's in the United States, that's how diluted something has to be to that level for it to be considered homeopathic.
I was going to say, is it a certain measurement of dilution?
Yeah,
like
it is.
specifically?
Yeah. I mean, it's like
hey, it can't be
high,
this parts per million.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. How about anyone else have any day-to-day experiences with magic or the occult or anything like that?
I wouldn't say the occult. I mean, okay, my mom is extremely religious, and she always talks about like spiritual stuff. Like she loves homeopathy. She sees this like guru lady who like reads her chakra or whatever and tells her like what food to eat. So, and I always have to like dodge and bob and weave it. And when she tries to talk to me about it, like I have to hold my entire being back to not just like laugh.
God, I feel that. Yeah. My grandmother's Thai, and she's. If you didn't know, Thailand is one of the most religious countries on the planet. They have so many different special, ghosts and spirits and spirituality and superstition and all this stuff mixed around. So I definitely get that a lot.
Jack speaks Thai real good.
Oh my God, what a deep cut. I'm here for it.
All right.
Yeah, it's hard. I think the most common though that I run into is astrology. Is what's your sign, right?
Definitely. That one's pop culture. Like phones almost come with a preloaded astrology app these days.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure the Samsung ones do, right?
Probably. I know Yahoo Mail does.
Like, oh, you're in astrology, so what do you think about like the age of Aquarius and all that? And like, wait, what? And you're like, yeah, your position in the solar system and the way the star pattern moves. And they're like, what?
I mean, Mercury's in retrograde or whatever that means. So yeah.
I have a friend from southern India who used astrology to pick his spouse.
Well, how'd it go?
It's practically mandatory. Like if you don't get the astrologer to read your sign to like match or no match. It's based on the stars, like the exact moment of your birth.
Yeah, no, that's nuts. They do the same or similar thing in Thailand with days of the week. Like each day has a specific color, and if you lean towards this color, it might be nice, and you might be a better match, and all that stuff. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. My wife and I often joke because in the Chinese zodiac, our animals hate each other. In astrology, we're usually not compatible. She's Christian and I'm atheist. and we just spite the fucking universe anyway and say we're gonna make it work. Love it.
What are you guys' astrology signs?
I'm an Aquarius.
Cancer.
I am a Scorpio.
I'm a Virgo.
Before the procession or after the procession?
I get whatever we're in now.
Leo.
I was going to say, whoever's more well-informed on this can definitely describe what that means, but...
Oh, basically, there was like the Earth is on a wobble, and when they first made the horoscope, it was in like whatever Earth's position was relative to the stars, like 5,000, 3,000 years ago, but because of the wobble, it shifted. So even though I'm technically a Leo, I was really born under, like, I think it's like Gemini. I'm not sure.
Oh my god.
I haven't checked mine.
That reminds me of me and my friends had a thought experiment last night. And I said he was talking about like traveling, talking about hopping on a plane and going against kind of time a little bit. It's like, what if you were like in New York and you traveled like backwards into like Russia, right? And then maybe flew around the world again. And then like you would like still have the day, right? Because the day hasn't passed. Well, technically the time would still pass. That makes me think of like, imagine you being the guy that points out to the dude that he's been celebrating his birthday on the wrong day for like 30 fucking years because he took a trip around the world fucking a long time ago.
You can do that, right? Like take a day off your life, technically.
Like, what if you got someone's sign wrong because they didn't understand the fucking wobble? You're like, oh shit.
No, this is why all my relationships haven't been working.
I knew there was a reason I was a piece of shit.
Sheet.
It's not my fault I'm a piece of shit. I've always been a Cancer.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
Shots fired.
People literally have treated me like I have cancer because I'm a Cancer in that way. Like they it's the weirdest thing to judge people over their signs because Cancers don't get along with other.
For me, it's a great like personal like association, like deflector. I ask them about it, and if they tell me that, like if they ask me about it, I just know this is a person that I don't want to be around.
Like, oh, how accurately can you describe this to me? Cool, that's how accurately I'm gonna dodge you. That's funny. So I do have an interesting take for tarot whenever we get way down the road.
No, let's talk about tarot.
Yeah, we could go to
I
tarot.
fucking love tarot.
My girlfriend here because she loves tarot too. It's been kind of a pop culture thing recently. Which if you haven't seen all the different tarot decks that you can buy, you should go look them up because they're absolutely freaking awesome.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, it's again.
Are they all like the same but like different pictures? They're all the same meaning, like the Joker and the.
They're not even all the like. There's different sets. So there's like the Order of the Mythic Dawn has a set of cards that have different meanings and pictures, as well as like the ancient like Spanish ones that you'll like. I think they're like Hebrew Spanish is pretty much the common ones. Like the oldest ones, they manufacture the most. And then Mythic Dawn and more weird occult, like more modern stuff is a little harder to find.
Do they have like a more? Do they have like a more updated one? Like oh no, you got the hacker card, or you got the you will be driving electric vehicle in the next 10 years card.
No, they
don't work like that.
Yeah, Error, you can go ahead. You practice tarot, right? So if you want to explain the what tarot is used for from your perspective, that would be.
So, the best way that I like to describe tarot to people who don't use what? Okay, so the best way that I like to describe tarot to people who don't use tarot is that it's less of something that tells you like dates and actual like whole events. Sometimes it does, sometimes it's accurate in that way, but it's more of like you're a piece on a game board and that's existence. And tarot is a tool that helps you understand where you are on the game board, where you're trying to go, what different paths are available for you to get there, what might be standing in your way, what's working with you, what are other players on the game board. And it's done through just in what's the word? Interpretable.
Interpretive.
Thank you.
Understanding.
Yeah, interpretive understanding based on the visuals of the cards. But for you to understand the fulfilled whole meaning, it takes like a minimum of a year of active study and meditation on the cards for you to understand the whole
symbolism, meaning.
So if I get like an updated pack that has like an SJW card, then I have to understand whether to join them or avoid them.
So there are 78 cards.
Jesus.
Some people read upright, some people read reversed meaning. So you can read upright only, or you can do both. It depends on your practice and how you're intuitively reading. Because ultimately it's just you talking to yourself through your subconscious, because you already know what you want and what you want to do. These are just a way for you to connect to that.
Do you take it as a game error, or do you seriously believe
No, I practice tarot. I don't think it's like a third-party conscious entity talking to me through the cards. I think it's no different than me searching the clouds for answers. I'm going to find what I want to find. But it's a way of clearing out all of the surface debris, if you will.
I have two questions for you.
Sure.
One would be a lot of people that are averse to tarot cards, like religiously, like Christians, they're also averse to things like Magic the Gathering. The way you just described tarot sounded a lot like the limited understanding of Magic the Gathering I have. So it seems like they are kind of similar, but to stretch that idea even further, like into the world of like D&D, which Christians also hate, and like RPG games, or like kind of have all like there's a pagan, I don't understand it completely, but there's some kind of pagan root to all that that's kind of similar. Do you see that from your understanding of like your perspective of tarot?
I
what
play
Christians
Dungeons.
do you know of?
Yeah, I play Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering, and those are just playing games that are based off of mythology that we've been talking about over centuries.
Yeah, there's some neo-pagans that like they play like Dungeons and Dragons because it like it's like a game that like teaches their mythological worldview, like the leveling up of skills in life, and then trying to attain, like carrying those skills over in the next life and keep leveling up and leveling up. But all right, so that was my first question. My second question was, I'm gonna have to come back. I think I forgot it.
Yeah, no worries. I don't particularly adhere to that, if I'm understanding what you're describing properly.
I just wondered if you're a person being immersed in that kind of thing, if you see patterns and connections to the other things I mentioned.
My understanding is tarot's actual like origination began out of like a Kabbalistic interpretation by like converted Greeks. It was essentially a bunch of, or not converted Greeks, converted Jews. A bunch of Jews in Spain that were converted took a bunch of the like Kabbalistic and like Talmudic symbolism and started like this. Essentially, it's an old meme, in my opinion, where you go about doing the tarot reading in whatever way you do, but they believed in magical powers back then, so they would have repeated Kabbalistic symbolism just echoed throughout, each card representing a different thing. It's all much more Jewish than it is pagan, although there are pagan influences for sure.
Not gonna lie, it's a little Jewy.
It's a little Jewy.
There's some weird things in the Bible, the Old Testament with the Jews and the New Testament with Christians. Like there's in the Old Testament, there's like an account of a séance that's considered to be real and like considered to be like spirits actually talking to people. In the New Testament, like to go back to the zodiac, the fish symbology and the wise men that came to Jesus, surrounding that whole Jesus story. A lot of people connect that to like Jesus was coming to usher in the age of Aquarius. But anyways, that's a side note. What is the tarot card girl's error? I remember my other question. Are you familiar with like the tarot card people that make a connection to 9/11 and the picture of that guy falling that's in the position of the hanging man?
The fuck? No, I don't. That's new.
Yeah, you guys can Google it. It's kind of a I find all kinds of extreme beliefs interesting. But there's this guy that's falling from the building. He jumped out of the building, and then they're making all these connections to like the tarot world, and he's in the position, like the exact position of like how the hanging man is positioned on the card.
I think a man really has much choice but to be in that position, honestly.
What'd you say?
Like
I said I don't.
Oh, sorry.
They
Go
have
ahead.
much choice but to be in that position, unfortunately.
Have you looked at the position? It's not a natural position. Like
the hanged man, it's upside down with the legs together, straight up, and the arms extended perpendicular, just out from the body.
So
in a T.
Isn't one knee bent?
Huh?
Isn't one knee bent?
Yeah, one knee is bent. I think it's the right leg on my card.
Hanging man is a video as well, so the saying is there's a lot there you can kind of just line up.
So I'm not saying I make any connections with this, but I'm going to post these two pictures in the. What are we in Trent's Tavern right now?
No, we're in weekly showroom.
Oh.
But I do think we can wherever, like voice text chat or something, voice chat. I think we can bring this back around to magic by going a little less modern, not quite today, and we can take it back to like the idea of synchronicity. It's like a Jungian thought, but a lot of people still hold it today. But the idea is basically that magic and karma or coincidence, these things are all pretty much the same. So like the idea that things are fated to happen, and you can through enacting yourself in the world change these fates, and change, like you can, by doing good things you will incur good things upon you because you're putting good, essentially like good synchronous events out into the world that will stack up and pile up, and so you'll have more of that. Do we have any thoughts of like the more mundane magic where it's not necessarily claiming an extra dimensional realm? It's more so like your spirit, in the sense that like you can be happy because of these things. So if you sit there and pray to this owl statue in the middle of the woods and drink beer with your friends for a week, you'll feel better, and you can consider that a kind of magic. You'll feel more on top of things, like like you're friends with all these powerful businessmen or whatever.
I would say that at the end of the day, everybody has karma. Everybody has a way that they handle themselves, and they affect the people around them. It only affects other living things. My karma does not affect my dresser. It does not affect, my TV. It does affect other human beings and people that understand my energy about how I come across, and it's done in a way that it's not really analyzed data-wise. Like there's no computer that just grabs all the data points of how I'm acting with another person. I would call that karma. It is a form of magic, meaning things happen in a way that I still can't control and sure of, as if a butterfly flaps its wings and a hurricane is formed.
Like, so yeah, you can
Do you believe
better
that,
yourself. Like,
What?
were you just like articulating the idea of karma, or were you saying that you hold the belief of the existence of karma?
I don't think magic itself is like real, like magic itself. Like it's described in a colloquial term of mysticism and supernatural and all that stuff. But I do believe in. I'm getting a lot of feedback errors. Sorry. But I do believe in like karma, because how you handle yourself in this world is you'll see results that happen from you interacting with other people in a way that you cannot control, and it can't really be analyzed. So I would call that karma, and I would also call that magic. That's the magic in between interacting with people. So my karma right now is talking to you people, how I perform and how I talk and how I rudely interrupt because I'm on 3 coffees right now, um, is my karma. And now I'm gonna get whatever I set forth out in the world is gonna come back to me in ways that I just can't possibly quantify or imagine. I can't predict what somebody's gonna say to me because of the way I act. So to me, that's the magic that we see in the world.
it kind of reminds me of like a watered down Petersonian take on stuff. Like, I know he had that video recently where he was talking about Jungian synchronicity and crying about how story can sometimes come down into our realm and influence reality. And I think it's similar, although maybe without the deep emotional attachment that Peterson obviously has.
Petersonian.
Petersonian. Trying to get it to catch on.
It's actually it's kind of that's pretty good. That's very Daltsu of you.
I try. I have my moments. How about talismans? Like, has anyone here ever had a lucky rabbit's foot, or a lucky pair of undies you wear on game day, or even some ancient arrowhead you found at the river that you carried around for a long time, or anything like that?
Never had anything like that.
Used to.
I think I have a rock somewhere that I found when I was a little kid, and I decided I was going to skip it. It was like the perfect skipping rock, like round stone, flat, fit perfectly into my hand. I've grown since then, so it's a little small now. But I picked it up, and I was like, when I have a kid, I'm going to skip this rock one day, and that's going to be the thing. And just because I had that thought, I've kept that rock my entire life. In fact, it's sitting on an altar to I think like Hermes or some shit.
It's my altar, yes. And my altar, there's only a part of it that's dedicated to Hermes, all right?
I'm sorry, I thought you said an altar to herpes.
Hermes. Oh, God, no. Hermes. No, the Greek god. No.
I'm just making a joke.
Well, if you don't give your weekly offering and keep it happy, I mean.
Sue, I'm going to be honest, that just sounds like procrastination.
What does?
Said you're not skipping a rock for 20 fucking years. Just sounds like procrastination.
It might be. Maybe I should get a reason to skip this rock soon. But yeah. So
this...
like.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
You go ahead.
I don't. No, you all go ahead. I'll go last. I don't know if this counts as like a lucky rabbit's foot or not, but I mean it worked for me for like a long time. I played these raffles on Instagram, and what I would do is it would be like a head-to-head raffle, or say a raffle with 5 players, and I would let the game fill, and I would take the last spot. So I mean, my win, if you were to take my overall win percentage with these games, it was ridiculously high. Like I know I came out way above other people. I made a lot of money for I don't know, probably 2 years doing this. It's recently quit working. So, but I mean, it was strange that it worked for so long. Like my intention was just to let other people do what they wanted, and I would just casually be like, I'll take the last spot. You know?
I have kind of the same thing. My buddy calls it video game luck. It's because we'll both be playing the game, so sometimes you'll get like, in a video game you'll get like a box and it'll be like random items in a box. He gets so pissed because he'll be playing the game at like forever, and then he'll introduce me to it, and then I'll get like this epic item, or I'll always get and it's just always happened every time I play a game. My wife hates it too because every time we play some random chance game on a board game or whatever, I always get the good shit right off the bat. So I don't know what that is, just a luck of the draw. Well, I always look at it. I still get the shaft from time to time. I still get the shaft from time to time. It's fine. There's nothing I'm changing. Like there's nothing I'm doing. Like it is what it is.
Maybe we should talk about magic rituals, because I think like waiting to take the last seat is like a ritual type of thing where you.
That's actually something I was going to say too. Was that sounds more ritualistic.
Yeah, and even like some people will claim meditation is magical because it's this ritualistic thing, and you can even see lights behind your eyes and shit if you focus really hard and stare at the back of your eyes for a while.
Dude. I don't have to focus hard. I close my eyes and it's like a world of fucking lights going on all the time.
That's.
But do you think that's like? Well, how do you separate that from just your run of the mill politeness? So, like, say you're with you're taking a girl out on a date and you open her door for her, or you pull her chair out for her so she can sit down first. Do you think that's ritualistic or more just I don't know? Yeah, run of the mill politeness.
I mean, I tend to think that magic is a word, and we can kind of define it however we want and put it anywhere. So I would just as soonly say that magic doesn't exist as I would say that magic is the only thing that exists, because everything is magic and blah, blah, blah. It's more about what you can communicate. So in a sense, I would say that, yeah, that's kind of like a magic tradition, because, 400 or 500 years ago, it may have been impolite to pull the seat out for the lady. You aren't supposed to do that. You should, or in this culture, you're not supposed to do that. So it's more of a context-based tradition to elicit a response out of your surrounding world, which sounds almost exactly like magic if you describe it that way. Like there's tons of.
Doesn't magic have a certainty of like there's some sort of supernatural process behind it that you're trying to tap into, as where basic social mores, there's not anything that people think there's any supernatural aspect behind the greater purpose of what you're doing. It's more just like, hey, these are the social norms, right? I guess that's how I see the difference between what people would say is magic or just
social norms.
Social norms, the way people do things.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a funny line to parse, but I think it can be easy. It's just more about what you define it. And like modern day, I think you're definitely right. Like everyone who thinks of magic would think of it as like an extra dimensional power source that you're invoking, or some being that you're invoking to help you. And that wasn't always the case. There have been like people like alchemists, for instance. A lot of them thought they were doing science and not doing random guesswork or whatever. And then you even have the opposite, where people would totally believe they're invoking a spirit, but really they're just following this text that they read that said to curse the guy next door. You scribble some drawings on this lead tablet and throw that lead tablet in their well, and boom, you've cursed them. And
turns out lead isn't so good for your well.
Yeah, so it's like modern day, we can totally say that's not magic, that was science. But it's like back then.
How much of it, guys, do you think is the power of positive thinking? Or do you think that positive thinking has power?
99% of it is positive thinking. 1%
So
of it is action.
There has been studies. I think it was with professional fighters, though, so it might not go to everybody. But it was like when you have two highly skilled fighters that are roughly the same weight, you can determine who's going to win pretty accurately just by seeing who has more testosterone in their system right before the match. Because the guy who's more pumped, going to push a little harder, he's going to go a little farther, he's going to attack faster, he's not going to hesitate as much, and that
he's going to be more cocky. And
let me tell you about a bet that I made one time. It was about 20 years ago. About 20. What year is it? It's 20. I guess it was about 20 years ago. There was a World Series game involving the New York Yankees, and I don't remember exactly what year it was, but I was watching. Like I was hanging out with my friends, doing all kinds of crazy shit, and we were at a party, and we were just walking through the room where everybody was watching the World Series, and I stopped for a moment to watch, and it was pretty much the end of the game. I think it was the ninth inning, and the Yankees were down by 3 points or three. I think they were down by 3 runs, and the guy that was at bat was a notable professional in really good shape, and I just saw in his eyes the frickin', the spirit of this guy is gonna do what it takes to win the game. And I placed a bet. I bet the guy next to me, it was $20 that this guy's gonna hit a home run in the next pitch. And boom, next pitch, home run, like walk off, grand slam home run in the world. And I don't know if it was the last game of the World Series, but like I saw that in that guy's eyes. That guy was using magic. If there is a thing such as magic,
you divined.
I used something to divine. Like I could tell just by looking.
Intuition,
he was looking at the camera.
maybe?
The camera was looking at him, and I could see 100% that guy was clutch. Like he had that clutch flow attitude and everything. Like, but there was no doubt in my mind that he was going to hit a home run just from the look in his eyes.
But here's the fun part, right?
And I put my money on it.
The moment that he doesn't, you're like, man, brush around. Like all those incidents.
I haven't.
They don't.
I haven't placed a lot of bets on things like that in my life.
It's like
I don't think I've placed 2 bets on something like that in my life.
But
we remember the wins, not the losses.
Effect. Yeah, that's a psychological effect. Yeah. Like things that when they work out for your benefit, your brain tends to like remember those things and been like, oh, what was I doing there? Well, I had my hat on backwards. I was wearing my lucky socks, and I didn't wash my underwear.
No, there was no luck. No, there was no luck involved. It was just I could see what the guy had in his spirit, and it was visible through his eyes.
That guy that says, "Go wash your fucking."
I'm not saying I cast it.
I'm not
saying I cast it. It's
disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of egging you on, Dr. Doolittle, to use more creative language just for the fun of it. But I think I'm not sure if I've had the exact same scenario happen, but I know I've had similar scenarios where I'll sit down to play chess or to play a game against a guy, and you'll look into his eyes and it's like, oh, he's not playing a game, he wants to win this, so I'm either going to have to give it my all or probably come out losing this Smash Bros championship or whatever.
But I do think skill comes into play here, because if you guys watch the Logan Paul Floyd Mayweather fight, Logan Paul thought he thought he was going to win. You could see in his face he was more confident than anything.
Yeah,
Is that fake?
yeah, but
he was not. He was not
fake.
obviously
It's not a
when
fake fight. Come
like
on.
it's not, it's
it was
definitely
an
not all down
exhibition
in that.
fight. Yeah, it was like Floyd was not giving it his all, but Logan sure as shit was.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not all like
Mayweather made $100 million off that, so of course he's gonna do it. He just gets to go in there and do 5 rounds and just fuck around and like not get not get knocked out. He's good.
I need to watch that.
Comparing a real boxer versus a YouTube personality who thinks he's a boxer. That's all I'm saying. So like there's a certain point with that kind of stuff where I do think experience and expertise has a huge part to play with that as well.
Definitely.
Wasn't that a waste of time watching
it? No, because it's funny. But which is why I should watch it. But yeah, I think the study that I saw, and actually it may not have even been a study, it may have been fucking Joe Rogan, which doesn't mean a lot. But what I heard was between yeah, exactly. Whatever I heard it from, it was between like 2 professional fighters. It wasn't like some guy on a street versus a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, because that's, you're just not going to win that unless you're lucky and a gorilla or some shit.
Yeah. Well, speaking of professional fighters, if you guys saw the Khabib versus McGregor fight, yeah, both of those guys had all the confidence in the world going in too. So it's there also is that kind of personality. Like McGregor is not going to go into a fight thinking he's going to lose. Like that's just not who that dude is. Same thing with Khabib, like fucking that guy does not go into anything thinking he's going to lose.
There's a story I heard Jocko Willink tell that I think illustrates your point somewhat, and it was Jocko Willink versus David Goggins. I think they were rolling on the mat, and David Goggins, I don't think, had any training at that point. He was just going into it as a super athletic dude. And there was this point where Jocko Willink got him into a hold. I don't know what hold it was because I don't know fighting. But Goggins decided that he didn't want to be in this hold anymore, so he just gave it his all, screamed, and tried to flex out of it. And I guess he broke his collarbone because Jocko Willink is also a big guy and just had him in. He already had him.
Yeah, I think it was a rear naked choke that he had him in. If I remember right.
Yeah. That said, though, like maybe you should have used some lead in the well water magic. Like maybe you're using like your personal like uplifting magic can only get you so far.
That's all I've ever needed.
So I do want to say I just looked up just for shits and giggles the different dictionary definition of magic is the power of apparently influencing the course of events by using mysterious or supernatural forces.
Yeah. Contemporary, like the way we talk about magic today and probably for the last several hundred years has been that. But like things like oh man, what was it that we were talking about the other day? Like nominalism and the other one, whatever the other one is.
Yeah.
Back in
nominalism and
as
is Platonism, nominalism, and why am I forgetting the last one? It's basically the opposite of nominalism.
The idea that words influence reality that existed, from my knowledge, before Plato came up with the idea for Platonism, at least before Platonism was widespread in like later years. They kind of had this this idea of magic that didn't necessarily, actually I believe it was strictly against like dualistic views. The ancient Hebrews, at least a lot of them, they were very monotheistic, and so the fact that they had magic too, they would like not necessarily say that this is some thing from an alternate dimension. Like King Solomon was literally known for trapping demons and exorcising demons from people and storing them in amulets and stuff like that. And that was, he was just, he was a Jew, I guess. But
Well,
so I don't think
there's a long history of like Jewish people though that they were not necessarily, they didn't have one God at the beginning. They did believe in multiple gods that did
but
boil down to one God.
if you read like a lot of Jewish literature and texts, especially the Kabbalistic ones, you kind of get this idea that all of these things are from the originator, the god, and there isn't like this separate realm that houses jinn or daimons or whatever the fuck.
Jinn.
Which one you think is between a person actually believing it's mojo, and which part? I mean, like how would you know if like the person's a bullshitter? And how can you tell between if it's actually a belief of mojo or bullshit in order to manipulate people to get them to do what you want? Some people
really
they BS people. They think they're ignorant. They're too naive.
I think Nivek
some
is
people
making
some
the
people
point of
fool
fake it till you
themselves.
make it.
Some
I think
people fool
Nivek's trying to make
themselves
the point
too.
of fake it till you make it.
Yeah, some
They
people
believe
will
they're
fool.
bullshit.
Some people will fool themselves, and then they will try to fool others, and we can call that proselytizing. Or you can have someone who's a charlatan, on which they're just trying to fool others for their own personal gain, even though that they don't believe it. And I would say that it is more than likely the former over the latter. People that believe to believe, and their claim is, and you want that validation, from you to also believe in it.
Okay, so it's like you have, look at this cup of water. I'm gonna turn it to fire. You know it's gasoline, and these people are fucking ignorant. And I'm all powerful and almighty. Worship me, bow before me. I'm your god.
Trust me, man. God won't let this poisonous snake
Or maybe
bite
they
you.
buy
Oh
their own-
shit!
Yeah, there's been a lot of people who will. I mean, I'm mostly thinking of Christian stuff, but Christians aren't divorced from magic, like at all. They are. A lot of them were big proponents of it, just not the Catholic Church.
You can't say
even
magic.
the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church
they
believes
believe
in
magic
miracles.
exists, but magic is not something. It's not something God uses. It's something like a devil or something, or a demon would use.
No, because you'll have like preachers, especially like Southern Baptists, that will, invoke the name of God to heal you. That's magic. That's, or they'll invoke an angel to heal you sometimes too.
Yeah, when
We
when
asked
dudes are
ourselves
like,
that
well, like
question
I'm
last
taking the power of God, and you're gonna get up and walk right now. I'm taking all the cancer out of your lungs right now. Who's it? Benny Hinn, the guy who's like famous for doing that. I don't know if you ever saw that video where he was like waving his jacket at people, and he'd hit him with his jacket, and they'd all just fall.
Yeah, and they'd all fall over. Yeah, that was. Whew, that threw me for a loop when I was 13 and saw that for the first time.
We asked that hypothetical last time in our discussion. What would make you believe? And it was like, well, God has to like something has to be done in order for that to happen. And then the hypothetical was, well, what if you're going through the forest? You looked, you saw something, and then you looked away, and then you looked back, and it was all of a sudden God. Then would you believe? And some people was like, well, yeah. But Scott said, nah. I'll try to figure out what the heck that was.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, I mean, you don't know what's going on. Like, how many hours of sleep have you had in the past 3 days? What have you eaten? Like, there's many explanations that you can give to the natural world that can explain that, besides saying God did it.
Maybe someone's messing with you.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think with those when people who are telling you that, I think they're less messing with you as just they're more true believers. People who are messing with you are going to be like the preacher, like Benny Hinn, who's like waving his jacket at you, taking
No,
demons
I mean
at
like
you
as a
because he's
blooper,
making
like
money.
as in like you see on a blooper reel.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, if this is just somebody who's telling you something, who's not necessarily, they're not running a church or something, and they're not making financial gains off you believing this certain thing. Yeah, dude, I've met many of people who believe all sorts of things that I don't see any evidence for it, but I don't think they're trying to bullshit me, like these people actually really believe these things. And if that's the case, that's fine, man. That's what you believe. Like, I'm not gonna say anything about that, but if it's somebody who I think is trying to sell me something along those lines to benefit themselves, like Kenneth Copeland. I don't know if you know that guy.
Oh,
So somebody did like an interview with him recently, maybe about like 9 months ago, and he just bought a private plane, and they're like, well, why did you need to buy a private plane? He's like, well,
I know this
God wants
answer.
me to go around and fucking I need to be able to go to all these different places, and like it's one of the most cringe videos I've ever seen because like you can tell he's lying. You can tell what he's doing is doing this to benefit
Scott.
himself so he can live a good life.
Scott.
He
already had a plane. But it wasn't a G5.
It wasn't a G5.
He already had a plane.
Exactly.
You need a faster plane to do it.
So
No, I mean,
Joel
like,
Osteen has that G5. Why can't I have the G5?
Joel Osteen's got the G5.
Joel
Keeping up with the
Osteen,
pastors.
I'm talking like a blooper reel. Like I see some people in blooper reels. They something will be there, and then they look away, and then it'll be gone, and then they look around for the camera, and they point in the direction of the camera. Some people actually catch on, but some people they.
Yeah, well, that's also
Professional
the thing too,
buskers,
like,
man. Professional
well,
buskers.
also
That's what they
that,
are.
well, that's something that happens too, Nybeck. If somebody has a camera on them right off the bat, they're gonna be disingenuous. You know what I mean? Like people once they have a camera on them, they think that they think they need to play up for it. So that's something you see all the time. And like when people take a camera on the street and like hit people up, like, do you really think that's the way these people are in everyday life? I highly doubt it. They have a camera on them, and then all of a sudden they feel like they need to do something to be interesting because they want to get on TV or this, that, and the other.
I just
That's
think of
not
them as
uncommon.
it's like the musicians that busk in the subway, and now they have their own theater, and now they can perform nightly, and it's like now they're on Broadway or whatever. Like that to me, that's just a pastor. He's talking about community and liveliness and feeling, and it's such good stuff. I mean, yes, he puts the because God on the back end, but now when he's speaking, and I swear to God this is true, the fucking credit card machine on the back of the chair in front of you in the pulpit. And you're like, $5. Give me an amen.
When I do want to say we got Dr. Jimmy, Amy, Villain. Do you guys got any opinions on this?
I got one. I think it's like a competition between you being fooled. Either you're being fooled or not, between you and the person that's going on. They're not going to come out and just say that's what's going on, but you have to.
Do you know what?
It's a battle of wits.
TA is? Yeah. Do you know what TA is? What I know where he's going. Do you know what TA is? Transactional analysis, because it seems to me like that's what you're basing your viewpoint on is transactional analysis. And if you've never like looked up what this is and the way that it works with humans, I highly recommend it. It's a very interesting field.
It's like a person's trying to get you to do something, and it's kind of like it's really a back and forth between you and them, and them getting their game.
That's not the way everything works, though. I don't.
No, I'm saying potentially.
Potentially, yeah, potentially, absolutely, yeah. Agreed, 100%.
It is. it is if you're vested in your position and they're obviously vested in their position and you're about to have a conflict over whatever their truth claim that they're about to make is. But in like a general room where even if there's people in there that are atheists, like if enough people aren't, they're not going to get up and try to shout out the whole room there.
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't say atheist, I should say like non-spiritual, non-whatever.
It's an alien control to get to the person to like do or see a certain way.
Well, it's not control, man.
Yeah, well, words like God are a lot trickier than words like magic these days, because God is something that's believed in by people. Like even if you have an IQ of 200, if you were raised by very devout Christians, you're going to be just a lot more likely to believe in God as like an epistemological foundation, a foundation of all your beliefs. And so like that's why, like, a lot of these pastors that are tricking people to give them wallets, they don't necessarily know they're tricking people. Like, oh, I'm willing to bet at least half, probably more, are truly think they're helping people and that they're, giving them cabins in the heaven.
So that's interesting that you say that. So, like, the beginning of the conversation, you're saying a person was like, it was something magical. I just knew it was going to happen. But like Scott was saying, is like, a lot of folks, when they get in like Mayweather and Khabib, they believe that they're going to win, and they talk like that they believed after they won. It's not like, oh, I always knew I was going to lose. It was always like something. So when people like people that have that think that like there's something magical within them, the reason why things turned out the way that they did, they want another person to think that way as well, because but others believing what they believe is a confirmation bias. Like, I'm not a dingbat crazy person that came to this like conclusion to actually think that there's something magical going on in my head. You know what I mean? It's kind of like if others kind of buy in it too, it's kind of like a confirmation bias for myself in a way. Is what you're saying, right, Daltsu? Like some people, they actually believe their own bull, and they want other people to believe. They want others to believe it too, as a confirmation for self-validation and a confirmation bias in how they think. So it's kind of like you kind of need, if other people, if nobody else does, and that means you're crazy and you're ignorant.
Well, no, because it's not necessarily about self-gratification, because they actually believe they're helping people. Like, they will go out there with the intention of saving people's souls, their eternally lasting
confirmation
souls.
bias, like people that believe crazy crap, and it's kind of like they want that. So another person will just come out, they'll grift, and they'll say, yeah, man, there are lizard people beneath the earth, and they're drinking babies' blood and all of that stuff. I got T-shirts and bottled water.
True facts. True facts.
Huh?
It's true facts.
Yeah.
Right there.
How much of that do you think is someone being a grifter, and how much of that do you think is someone actually believing that, they're testing chemicals on frogs to turn people gay?
That was my original question. Is how do you? I don't know.
You're specifically talking about Peter Popoff. Enough. I don't know if you remember this guy. He was an evangelical pastor, and basically he started selling miracle water cures. And he'd be the guy who would be doing his like TV shows, and he'd hold his hand up to the camera and be like, everybody at home, just go ahead and hold your hand up to the TV screen, and I'm gonna take your prayers. And like, and then he'd be like, oh, I can feel all you guys, I can feel everything that's going on, and I'm gonna heal all you guys.
I love that stuff, man.
That guy's a straight up charlatan. Like, he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
But there are many pastors, like a pastor, like your local church. They might say some crazy stuff, but I don't think they're the same kind of people as Peter Popoff. I mean, it's a different it's a different breed of people, you know.
Yeah, definitely not. I would say like 95% of pastors, maybe higher, genuinely believe what they're doing is right, and they're not trying to like rip people off or anything like that.
Yeah, I would say it's not right.
Yeah, Nivik, it really has nothing to do with confirmation bias at all, unless the believer is like struggling in their faith and they're doubting. So like for example, Nivik, do you believe the Earth is a sphere?
Yeah.
He took way too long to answer. I'm just going to point that out.
So like, do you need to go out and tell other people that it's a sphere to feel good about that conclusion that you've come to?
No, I wouldn't need that. No, but I
Right. So
mean,
like,
what if I thought certain things and
well, hold on just one second.
I
like
never
a
had
true, like a true believer that has no doubts in their faith is going to feel the same way about Jesus as you do about the spherical earth. So like there's no need to go out and win a soul for Christ to feel more empowered in their belief, or that to make it feel more real, or to go to church next Sunday to make sure that
I'm not talking true believer though. Like a
I thought
person that
that's
has doubts in how they think. They might think that they, the conclusions that they come to is really that they are ignorant. It's kind of like they have doubt in themselves, and people make them have doubt in themselves when they interact with people. And by calling them, they're like you like. They're saying you're this and you're that. They insult them. You're ignorant. You're stupid. You know what I mean? And a person comes along and is like, man, you're really a fucking genius. That person's the idiot. You got it all figured out.
I mean,
And it's kind of like you're telling so like when you tell a person that who was having doubts, it's kind of like you just you're validating them as a person.
I'm
And
sorry, I thought you
that's
were
important.
talking. I thought you were talking
matter.
about
I'm just talking about it doesn't. It can be about whatever religion.
I think we shifted at some point because at the beginning the question was, how do you tell the difference between people who are think they're telling the truth, who do believe it, and then it's kind of changed now to mostly focusing on those who don't.
What if?
Yeah,
that may have been.
What if Pinocchio
That may have been my fault. I apologize.
Said my nose is going to grow, but it was a lie.
You must be Pinocchio.
Broke everybody's brain. I love it.
I didn't introduce it when we got there, but we've entered a new school of magic a little while ago, the magical field of enchantment. So like, I like to think of this one like if you're in ancient times and you have a son and a daughter, and you're kind of moderately you're like a businessman, and you're trying to get yourself up financially and monetarily in the world. So you're going to do the custom of the time and give your daughter away in marriage to this wealthy family, and you already have it thought out. And then your daughter runs away with this like poor kid that fucking lives on the outskirts of town. Like that person and all of the connections you have, obviously, that person obviously is practicing magic, and they put a spell on your daughter, a love spell, to woo them over there, or enchanted them to believe in demons, worship demons, or whatever the thing is.
Demons.
And by
Daltsu. I don't think
also does magic give you a bigger dick? Maybe
it's a relationship between the person that's tricked and the believer.
I could get big dick magic if we want.
I'm talking about the solar opposite show. Yeah,
Solar opposite.
He
No.
had the big dick energy magic.
Oh yeah, that's magic. That's definitely magic.
Extension maybe. Your surgeon could be a magician.
We've found this ancient Roman technique to extend your penile length by 10 inches. Order now and you can...
I had to have a penis reduction, unfortunately. That was terrible.
Unfortunately, so it was like forced.
It was a white wine nut mushroom reduction. That's what he had.
All right. Well, so yeah, like
it's hilarious.
Magic. How should we go back to magic?
Some magic.
It's equivalent to elephantitis. It was a big problem.
Let me see. I'm gonna look up questions about magic.
I think it's a like what we were talking about before. It's a relationship between the person that's the being the con and the con. There's like a relationship between both of them. And
when is it a con?
Tricked, and maybe they want confirmation, or maybe the guy maybe it's just that the guy is trying to trick a person. It's you don't know the state of mind. It's a state of minds between both of those people.
Yeah, but you say maybe. So like you like at one point
at
the beginning you say it is this. You say it is this thing, and then later you get down and we'll say, well, maybe they're doing this. So
you have to figure that out.
Maybe they're not doing that.
Yeah, I don't think so, because it doesn't really matter if the person really believes or is just trying to sell the bullshit that they are presenting to you. Because if you can tell that it's bullshit,
in the confirmation bias of in how they think, it's
gonna be subjective. Magic on its own, especially when you speak of subjective or supernatural terms, whether it's part of the physical world or not, the indescribable will have properties that cannot be defined, only statements that are made as if they are truth propositions. So,
well, there's a relationship between the minds.
Poof, here it is. There's always a relationship between the mind. Abstract thought still occurs in the physical world, but supernatural, outside of the natural, right? As if we discovered the reason or the principle behind the trick being done, it wouldn't become natural itself.
You have to understand the relationship.
Is the proposition? It's completely abstract. So the whole concept of magic and how it performs and what it does is abstract. There is nothing concrete. Otherwise, it would just be a natural phenomenon.
Well,
I do want to say, like, going down this road of where we're talking about magic as only being like a power structure between two people, and one person's trying to con you all. I don't think we're going anywhere with it.
I don't.
That's true magic.
I don't think that's where Nivik was going exactly either.
There's a relationship, and I'm talking about how to go about understanding that relationship.
See, I think Nivik is more wanting to figure out how we can tell the bad actors from the people who are trying legitimately. And I don't think it's something that can be parsed, because the entire...
Go,
what do you mean, like legitimately? Like, what do you mean, like?
Okay. Somebody talks crazy.
So,
the con men versus the proselytizers.
That they want to hear. If they say, I believe in the dragons on the earth, and there's people, they're aliens and all that stuff, and they're drinking and eating babies and stuff, and then they're not making any type of any factual type of statement or reasoning or anything. Thing like that, and a person comes and they say, "Yeah, that's true," and buy this shirt that says that, then it's a good sign that is bullshit.
So are you saying anybody that promotes that idea right off the bat, if anybody who promotes that idea that they're being dishonest with you and they're trying to rip you off. Is that basically where you're going? Because that's, to me, that's sort of what it sounds like where you're going. You're saying like, oh, there might be some people that believe it, but anybody who's like trying to like who like goes out there and like talks about it, they're fundamentally what they're trying to do is rip you off. Because to me, it sounds like that's the point you're making, Nivek.
Yeah.
Okay.
When
What if that
I
person
hold on,
actually-
because
what if that person admits that they're bullshitters? That bullshitted the person. Would you believe that then?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like
Because
you're saying they think it's bullshit. They're just using it to sell you something so they can make money off of somebody who believes something that they don't believe, but they're using this
Snake
tool
oil.
to manipulate you. Yeah, I mean, to me, it seems like you're saying
Scott,
anybody
you're
who
all
says that
about
they
busting
believe in
bullshitters.
this. No, I know, and I agree with you, and I've pointed out many of people. I can give you a list of fucking names of people who actually do that, but I don't think everybody who is in that world actually really believes that. Not everybody is trying to rip you off. You know, there are people who actually just believe things, and that's okay. And like to go to the exact to go to the point that you say, like what you're saying is like anybody who's doing that, what they're fundamentally doing is trying to rip you off. That's the point that I'm just trying to clarify, because I don't necessarily think that's
when a
true.
person engages you, you have to have an idea where they're coming from when they're engaging with you. No, I mean, you're not going to just say, "Well, you didn't know."
But hold on, that like,
I mean,
just for a point of clarification, that is the point you're making, though, right? Is like anybody who's trying to do that, sell that to you, is you think they're being fundamentally dishonest and trying to rip you off.
No, I'm not making a stance. I'm just talking about the factors. That's it. I'm just saying, like, yeah, they could potentially be this or that, and that person
potentially
that they're selling it to, they could potentially be, wanting a confirmation bias, or maybe not. You know, they're just fooled. I don't know.
I think there's no reason to. Go ahead, Dr. Doolittle.
Sorry, I have an easy way to cut through that. If somebody offers to sell you a T-shirt, then they're trying to sell you a T-shirt.
Yeah, I was pretty much going to bring up like contractors. So how do you tell an honest contractor from a dishonest contractor? And you can kind of, look at their past and look at their future and make your best guess. But at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's your best guess, because the bad contractors are still skilled. Like all contractors are skilled if they can get a job. Like getting a job is a part of the skill. Yep.
Bullshit.
To future prediction, maybe we should just switch entirely and go to Nostradamus and fucking
Nostradamus.
Nostradamus.
Damn it.
Damn it. I feel like there was something else to build up to. But as far as
it's a matter of subjectivity versus
hold on, Nivek, I'm not trying to like cut you off, but I do want to see if anybody else has anything to say, because you've been talking for like an hour now. Amy, Chad, Loki's in here now. Villain, we've got Jimmy Cracks Corn in here.
Jimmy's too busy playing with her. Oh, shut up.
What?
I was gonna say Amy's too busy playing with her pussy is what he was gonna say.
Don't tell anyone.
Oh, God.
I it's funny that you bring up confirmation bias, Nivek, especially, because I've had like the opposite experience of, I'm not sure how much, I know we're on YouTube, so there's certain stories I won't tell, but, I've intermittently, me and a friend would go and like, I could see a psychic. And there were two different ones that I'd see back in my hometown. And I mean, they're pretty spot on, like kind of creepy, but they would always tell me that like, that I'm like super intuitive and that, I can do it too. And I know it. And I'm just like, no, that ain't me. Like I have friends that have stories. Sorry, I'm loud. Okay. You can go in the other room. Speaking of psychic, but so I had this one lady that I had known over the years, and and both of them would tell me the same thing. But she invited me to come to her little seminar, right? And so she like really wanted me to come. She was not doing well with her health. So I ended up going, and I brought my like psychic friend. And I never felt so uncomfortable because I felt like I should not be there. I did not fit in there. And so she like had you like find a stranger and try to read each other. And I like was just like this the whole time. It's like, this is stupid. This is stupid. And I like didn't even try. Until like the last 30 seconds. And then we had to do it again later. And so I'm like, all right, this time I'm just going to like say whatever comes to my mind. And I'm going to tell you right now, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I just, I was very self-deprecating and trying to give her expectations of 0, but just telling her that I was literally just going to say whatever came to me. And so I like just closed my eyes, and I'm holding something of hers to like, feel her energy, so to speak. And I named a name, and she was like, "Oh, that's my daughter." And I'm like, "What? Holy crap." And so I was just in an airplane. Are you taking a trip? She said, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh my gosh." I see like a Mickey Mouse symbol. I'm like, "Are you going to Disney World?" And she's like, "No, but you're close." I'm like, "Oh, you're going to Florida." She said, "Yeah, my daughter." Like this went on. I did not expect that. It kind of freaked me out a little bit, but I went up to the lady afterwards, running it, and I introduced myself because we had spoken over the phone. It had been like probably 20, 25 years since I met her in person. And she's like, "I know who you are, honey." And I looked at her. I'm like, "I know why you wanted me to come to this." And she's like, you could read people, couldn't you?" And I'm like, "I guess so." So that was a really strange, uncomfortable experience that I really kind of struggled to process. And so I'm wanting the confirmation that this is not anything that I, have or am good at. And even as I tell the story, it's just like, I know it sounds like, oh, whatever, Amy, but I was coming from wanting to be proven right that I was not so intuitive or psychic or whatever you want to call it. And so I would go into there's like Facebook groups where you can, read other people and practice stuff. So I'd go in there sometimes and I would just, scan the chats and, maybe respond to someone or try to close my eyes and, picture who they were talking to and, type what came to me. And often I would get good feedback. And I had some really weird interactions with people. Oh, thank you. And do I seem nervous? She gave me a squishy ball that she made. But so that happened, and then I've had moments of like sensing my I guess he'd be my ex-father-in-law who had passed away, and felt like I had to say something to my ex. So I just like texted him after this. And I said, "By any chance, have you been like thinking about your dad?" Because I sensed that it was a good time to like deliver this message. I said, he says, "Your dad been on your mind or anything?" And he said, "Actually, we were just talking about him." I like about fell out of my chair. And I'm like, wow. And I started telling him, and he thinks I'm crazy, but he just listened to me. And I said what I had to say. And so that kind of stuff has happened, and it spooks me out. Like, I don't try to get, people, I don't try to sell my services. I'm just on stealth mode on Facebook, like just seeing, talking to different people, seeing if this is the thing. And so, you have that experience, and these people nailed some stuff for me.
Can I respond to what you said?
So hold on, let me finish my thought. So I was going to say is, if you look into somebody called John Edwards, right? He was somebody that was kind of doing what you were doing, which is not only reading people very well, but reading complete strangers and then making that correlation effect. And It is a technique. Like what you're practicing is a true technique that people have been doing to other people for a millennia. So you should look into like some really cool techniques that people can kind of do on that, and then also equally, James Randi actually kind of shows how those things are
So,
done.
what would you say the mechanism is?
It's related to intuition for sure. Like
intuition and
like
People
I've
understand people psychologically very well. Some people do. They'll know what to say and what not to say.
Well, because here's the thing, Nivik, though. Nivik, because we're not talking about fake psychics. We're talking about the people who really believe they're psychics, right? Like, I've met a lot of people in real life who not only claim to have some sort of sixth sense, and they're not always the same, but they'll like influence people in some way, or they generally make things better by going about doing this, and I think they genuinely believe it. And not only that, I think it's a genuine experience, like what Amy was saying. Like you go to these scenarios and you come out saying words that these people respond to really well, and you're like, holy crap, where did that come from? And
I'm not talking the psychic. I'm talking about just regularly when you interact with another person. They will try to, in bad faith, say what they think they can say.
Okay, well,
and how they can and do what they can do to manipulate you and get a read off of you.
We're talking about psychics.
Nivik.
I'm talking about both.
I do want to say real quick, Nivek, this is the exact reason why I brought up that example earlier. Because here we are again, you're going back into this thing where you think, well, even with regular people, the only reason that they're doing it is because they're trying to manipulate you, they're trying to do this, and you're still talking about everything. That's what you just said, though. That's what you just said.
You
said
think everyone's out to get you, Nivik.
No, there's a potential of both. You got. I'm not.
Yeah,
I
there
want to
is.
see one thing, one view of things.
There is a potential of both, but when you can say there's a potential of both, but then when you 99% of the times you're making points, you're always saying, well, it's because somebody's trying to fuck you over. Like that's the point that I'm trying to ask you. So we can all recognize, yeah, it's both. And I think when
the
you
only
get
reason
pushed
I
on
say
it, you
that
recognize
is when
that it's
somebody
hold on,
talks
let
about
me
one view.
finish, man. Let me finish,
Yeah.
dude. And when the point is put to you, you always go back to this thing, oh, well, I'm just saying it's a possibility. It could be both. But then every time you give it any sort of explanation, it always comes down to a power structure of how somebody's trying to fuck you over. And that's what I was trying to get to.
I think
the heart of where you're coming from.
Like we did.
I think Nivik's more speaking out loud than thought out loud than it is trying to make a point.
Yeah, well,
the person that's conning you is about thinks that
yeah,
way.
but Nivik, because we talked about that. We talked about that, Nivik. When Amy started talking, she was prefacing about how we might think that she's making stuff up or dreaming or whatever. Like we went through that and we talked about the essentially mentioned how Amy mentioned herself how we're going to assume that she's being fallacious or lying.
It's hard for me to believe it, and it's weird for me because even though I tend to think that exists because I've experienced it, by going to someone and paying them, but yet they know things that they would never know, and they're consistent. And I mean, it's strange for me, even though I tend to believe in such things. For me to the name, the very first thing was a name that just came to me, and so I just said it because I was just going to say everything that came to me. And it's her daughter's name? Like, whoa, I did not expect that. So it's the opposite, where I didn't expect to be able to read anyone, especially a stranger. And I also will say that I think the environment of people that might have these gifts, that was probably powerful. That was just the energy of the room had to have enhanced the experience. And I will also say this, I forgot the best part of the story. When everyone was taking their seats, they were passing out raffle tickets. And I don't know why I even said this out loud, but they gave me a raffle ticket, and I said, I'm going to win. And then I'm thinking, oh, shoot, well, I was just confident. I just said, I'm going to win this. And I did. And so did my friend sitting next to me. Both won like a book, by the lady that was hosting it and then her partner. But I've been able to, this was weird, where the lady's son had committed suicide. Comes back to helping people. And I just kind of sensed this kid, like it's not clear. I couldn't picture him, but I just kind of sensed what he was like. So I was describing, what I was sensing. Just this is practice, and it resonated with her. And we talked about, she was not wanting to go back to health, and I felt like she should, and I hesitated to say that because I don't trust myself. But I just told her, I'm not confident in here. I'm not the most experienced, but I just feel like you should, and because that's kind of what I was getting from him. She ended up going, and she got back to me, and this woman was so grateful. She was able to connect with him there. It's going to give me chills or make me cry or something, but it was a powerful experience where we are both crying, and she's like thanking me, and I'm just kind of like, just uncomfortable with like that just happened, and I kind of just dismiss it, but I've been trying to be more trusting to just little pings of like kid's shoes, even though I think he has them. And then lo and behold, when I don't grab him because I don't listen to that intuitive ping, he was like, oh, did you grab my shoes? And so I think we all have that, though. I think we all have that. And we're taught to dismiss it. We're taught it's, woo-woo. We're taught it's crazy. I think that's by design in a way, too. But I think we all have that as humans. We're
I mentioned
all connected.
confirmation bias, and nobody acknowledged that I did that. Of person wanting to believe things. They said that only
we
things
acknowledge it.
That's not true.
Different context. We all acknowledge that point, Nivek. We all.
There's a confirmation bias between both, and then there's a relationship between the con and the con, and the con.
Person was like, and then she was like, "You're really good at this," because she didn't read me as well. Like she was not able to pick up as much about me. But I was coming from the opposite. I was seeking. I had a confirmation bias too, Nivik, but I wanted confirmed that I was way off, and I wasn't. And the woman at the front of the room knew that I would have that experience. And she knew that I needed to have that experience to trust it. It's weird. There's more, but
regardless, I think. Hold on, I want to just solve this because this isn't really what this is about. So basically, there are people who are intentionally using influence the action of others. 100%. Sometimes in like a certain field or whatever, it might be a lot. Like some people would claim that the Catholic Church is full of child predators that are using the language just to get close to children or whatever, and that's a view, but it's just very toxic because you end up believing that this vast amount of people are bad. But a lot of these people, in fact, I would say a huge percent believe that they're doing the right thing and helping people, and I think that's always kind of been that way. Like there's hardly ever been a group of people that are
And that's why I want to get this conversation out of these power structures. It's leading us nowhere.
Listen to me, somebody listen to me, please.
Hold on, Nivek, Loki.
I'm going
Chad.
crazy. There could be something about that person But I'm saying both sides. It's a relationship.
Come on, but
I think there is a conversation to be had about con games, but I think today what we're talking about is the occult.
That is what we're talking about.
Maybe hold on. Maybe we should steer into the storm.
Entirely, though.
I'll move
Can I
on.
have a minute uninterrupted?
Yeah, let's give Loki a minute.
Loki, yep, Loki, please take a minute.
Okay. I've been around, a lot of people who, have run broadcast programs, run small businesses, been part of minority religious communities. And, there are some hard to draw distinctions sometimes about real functional skills that some people consciously develop. Other people are, just manage to pull out if they focus intensely enough, which I think Amy might have been pressured to do in one context, but not actively train or develop consciously. But there's a lot of similarity between a quote unquote a lot of business consultants function on a model where they get the management and employees in a business who don't usually communicate well together or share certain levels of knowledge to share knowledge and then organize and present back what the client already knows but just isn't organizing and aware of actively in a useful form. And, the intelligent, honest psychics are essentially using a style of patients. There's one guy, used to know who we used to call Jake the Fake, but he actually had 3 resumes. One was as a engage in anything occult or mystical, but because the trappings can be used intelligently to draw people out into discussions they're otherwise emotionally obstructing themselves from having about stuff that's important to them. And that kind of reductionist functional view may not work too well in the stage theatrics and presentation, but I think it's descriptive of what the more skilled and honest people are actually doing and consciously develop the tools and skills to do with a wider range of personalities and communication styles than somebody who might casually be put in a situation where Amy got lucky.
You're talking about is specifically like people work in the realm of like persuasion and like teaching people persuasion skills.
I was going to say, do you mind if I jump in on this too? Yeah.
Let's let Grim make his point, and then Chad, it's all you.
Sounds good.
What I was going to say is, I often find that the people that enjoy that practice, their main goal, even when they show their tricks and they show how they create correlation and the John Edwards of the world, it's about providing solace to people, especially among death, and that kind of gives that kind of barrier. Where I find it to be troubling and rather disturbing in our society is them not obviously giving a warning saying, hey, this is woo-woo, right? I don't actually talk to the dead. Or in a worst case scenario, they use it in a way to investigate missing people. And they end up ruining a lot of horrible leads or horrible kind of situations where they're like, oh, your daughter's dead and she died over here, or oh, let's go waste resources because I have a feeling or whatever. And it becomes rather disturbing because the percentage of actual psychics that find missing children is extremely low. It's opportunities to actually save lives, especially children's lives. And to me, it's just deplorable. I just look at shit like that.
Yeah, so you're specifically talking about Sylvia Brown when you say that, because she is actually like somebody who's hired by police. Yeah, I mean, she is the fucking worst of the worst. She is the fucking bottom of the barrel of fucking gutter baby.
Or the Warrens, if anybody remembers
taken
them.
out when she was born. Like, she's garbage. Hot
Yeah,
garbage.
okay, you're dead on too.
So the
Do you think she's full of it or believes her?
In order to get people who wouldn't get the benefits dealing with someone honest if it were presented in a reductionist, rational way to engage. So how do you sort out the hucksters, the scammers, the con artists, the outright predators?
That's
From
what I
the
want to
people
talk
who
about.
are doing a service and a packaging that works for some clients who, can respond positively to that kind of guidance.
Don't hire them.
Yeah, I kind of
How do you
answered
sort
this
out which is which?
question.
Because it's very difficult to do in the context without a lot of depth of knowledge, and the people
Yeah.
who might be looking for it aren't good at that generally.
Yeah, I
When the
answered
person
this
talks to you,
question.
you can know when they lied to you.
I do
Answered.
want to. Dal, go ahead and finish. But I do want to say, Chad had a point to make. We went to
right.
Grim, and I wanted to go to Chad after that. But Dal, go ahead and finish. This
Okay.
is your show right now.
I said navigating something like that where you're trying to differentiate bad actors from good actors is essentially impossible, because the bad actors' ability to approximate the good actors will just keep up. You'll always be in an arms race, an evolutionary arms race, with finding them versus them escaping you. So the real way to do it is to learn how to sort like the reality, and then you can use your knowledge of reality to decide which area you would be prone to having more hucksters. Because like in a scientific field, you're not going to find a lot of hucksters, because you have to know a lot, or else everyone's going to know you're obviously a dumbass. And that, yeah. And then to Chad after
James
that.
Randi or Penn Jillette could be helpful there, but again, the people who need that kind of skill aren't likely to have
he's
it.
good.
Yeah, well, Loki, let's let Chad make his point.
This is actually a pretty solid segue into kind of what I wanted to talk about. And this sits somewhere in between everybody's points so far. I really do believe that human intuition is so far well understudied, and it seems so mystical because it's been understudied, and it's almost so intangible that it's incredibly difficult to study. So talking about your intuitive picking up on somebody's very subtle cues and the ability to create this correlation effect is actually really, really easy to see in action in a sales field. Now, how many people in here have ever worked in any sort of like mid or high level sales work?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure, just like if you have any experience in sales, you'll realize that there are some people who just have this weird innate talent to be better at drawing this sort of correlation and really have the almost psychic ability to connect and bring out information from whatever clients they're selling to. And it's not malicious. Very often it's not malicious, but it's effectively the same sort of tool. And it leads to that kind of like, well, it's so intangible, it might be woo-woo, or it's just, hey, this is something that's very clearly a human skill that we can eventually measure. But it's it's kind of interesting. Go ahead.
So I think what happens with that, there's something called the gift of gab, and that is like something people just like innately have.
I've heard that before.
What that allows you to do is like get people to talk about themselves. So like when people talk about the gift of gab, a lot of times they just think it's about like somebody being able to talk a lot. That's not really what it is. What it allows you to do when you do it right is get people to talk about themselves, and they don't realize they're talking about themselves. And you can just repeat back. You can just repeat back what they said to them. They're like, "This motherfucker, Jesus Christ." You know.
By the way, Scott, they got people who are aware of that, probably being more skilled con than the con themselves. So but the con wouldn't let the other con know.
It's not all. It's not all cons, Nivek. Like,
okay, not con,
is
not
not
con.
a con, dude. Like, come on, man. Like, you keep going back to that same thing of just saying it's all a con. Like,
okay, forget the word con. I mean, it could be a person that is more skilled in trying to gift of the gab of another person that has a gift of the gab.
I got an example, and it's kind of a humble brag. So I'm I run my company, and then I also I have my own clients, and I have about a 90% success rate the moment I meet somebody that they're going to be my client. Right? Everything kind of adds up. Like they're not going to really leave me for another person who can do what I do. And that's because of my personality. I have this ability, and I'm told by everybody around me is that I can pretty much make a friend or a client out of anybody because I am able to use this because I literally went through like sales skills in a ways that I can create the vibe. I can or like anybody. It doesn't really matter. And I'm an extrovert too, so it's like I can relate to fucking just about any situation. It's really neat. That's the gift.
The original reason I called you a sage was actually because I saw your ability to recognize where someone was coming from and in very little words get them to explain themselves thoroughly, and then you would calmly like talk to them about why you believe in something else. And I just saw that as a huge skill that I wish that I had because I'm not quite there.
It's taking somebody's thought, truncating it, delivering it back within a sentence or two, and it's a skill that I know I have, and I focus on like, hey, how can I sum up what you just said in two sentences, and it'll give them the vibe that we're connecting, and it's what's naturally occurring. Like this is how people connect naturally, but I do it on purpose because I get it. And it's a way it's used in acquiring clients. So it's not a trick. It's just who I am as a person.
But there are people that use it in bad faith arguments.
Nivek,
Yes.
have you ever actually run a con in your life? Have you ever actually?
I can do it for nefarious reasons. Yes.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
What I was mentioning as a business consultant.
I know there is a difference there. There is a fundamental difference between when you're running a con and when people actually believe something. And
I'm talking a bad faith argument, and the person didn't really care about coming to any type of reasonable conclusion. They're just saying, and they're just doing whatever they can to manipulate you to get to agree with them.
Specific question, Nivek. I asked you.
Yeah, I shouldn't have used the word conned. I got you to rob a person.
I just asked you. I asked you a specific question. Have you ever run a con in your life? Yes or no? That's a yes or no question. Period.
Oh shit, that's personal right there.
Okay. How about this? A person trying to con me, I catch him.
But that's not what I asked you. Like, have you ever run a con in your life? Like, I asked you.
That's a quick yes or no. That's a quick yes or no.
I asked you a clear question. Like,
have you ever ran?
I did answer. I answered it.
It's a yes or no.
I get your rationale, but
con or not con?
I answered you.
Yeah, here's the thing, Nivik. Using your wits to notice a con is not the same game as running a con. Those are they're somewhat related in the sense that you have to be able to read people to a certain extent, but I think you have to read, like, it depends on the level of the conner, and it depends on, like, it's just way different. It's way different.
In that.
Well, Nivek, one of the best
I don't believe in having bad faith.
Nivek, one of the best cons in the world that you can possibly run. Do this like with you and a buddy when you go out to a bar and you're trying to like hit on chicks. So learn a couple card tricks, and what you can do is like you work out something with your buddy, and what he does is he stands behind somebody and like okay, pull out a card, any card. They pull out that card. He sees it because he's standing right behind her. They don't know he's with you in this situation, and he's going to signal to you the exact card that it is, and you have specific signals that you can say, okay, that was a Jack of Hearts. And all you have to do at that point is boom, oh, Jack of Hearts, here's your card. And everybody's going to be like, holy fucking shit, man, this guy, dude, this is amazing. And like, all of a sudden you're the most popular guy at the bar. You and your buddy are just like fucking hanging out with everybody, getting everybody having drinks and stuff. And it's like, you're just a part of that environment at that point. And it's...
We used to have a trick that we used to play on people, me and my cousin, and it was the most cleverest fucking thing. That's what it reminds me of. And it was it was every time you click your fingers, it's A-E-I-O-U. So
Exactly.
A-E-I-O-U, right? And so if you had a vowel in the name, then you would say that. Or you would start, or if it was a consonant, you would start the consonant with a statement about somebody.
Exactly.
So you'd say, "Hey, whisper in my buddy's ear, whisper in my buddy's ear, a famous actor," and they would be like, it'd be like Burt Reynolds, and you'd be like, and my buddy would say to me like, a big guy who drives a cool car, A-E-I-O-U, and then I'd be like, B-U, Burt Reynolds, big guy drives a car. You're like, what the fuck? How the fuck did you do that? It's like one clue. It would, and it would just be like, what the fuck? Like, it was, and people would like think that we had like microphones on. It was a bar trick we ran all the fucking time.
That's the way con works. Like me and my buddies went like way deeper into it. That like from like simple bar games, but that's
taking people's money and leaving them cold in the street. Sick bastard.
You don't do that forever.
No. You eventually get your ass beat.
You should caught him.
You do that when you're a teenager and like in college and like you're trying to get free drinks and then all of a sudden like, oh man, well maybe we can do more. It's like, no, we can't. No, that's not good. But there are people who do take it farther, who are really good, like Bernie Madoff. Like that guy was fucking a master at it, and there's a difference between people who are trying to rip somebody off and somebody who actually believes something. And that's the only thing I'm trying to get back to you is like, because every time we talk about this, like it always comes back to you, and you always go back to the exact same point of like, well, it's somebody trying to get one better over on another person.
Scott, we had this conversation
last time. That's the case, man. I know.
I said to
I've told you many a times. But
I was talking about Kumbaya. I was talking about Kumbaya and the Predator, and it was you that said no. If a person is lying to you, I think they have ill will intent. And I said, well, no. If you understand where they're coming from, they don't really. It's really the position that their minds are. Psychologically, they have a viewpoint of either you're conned or you're the con, or you're the con, and some people just have a mindset when you interact with them. They just do what they can to win the argument. They do what they can to get their way.
Because that's what I'm telling you, Nivek. Things are not black and white. It's not like it's not like you're either the con or getting conned. That's not the way the world works. Like
no. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you're onto the person and you know that they're lying to you. If I'm going to try to work with that person in a positive way together. I understand that they probably psychologically,
Nivek, if someone is,
Nivek, I just want to get off this point of things being like a power fucking struggle between two people. Like
I'm saying that it's like not.
No, but you are like you say it's not, but then every argument that you make goes to that point. I want to go back to Dal, and Dal's running this conversation, man. Let's get it back on track because like this power structure stuff.
I just want to say
going nowhere.
I just want to say really quickly, Nivek, if you are like actively trying to help people, that are unknowingly trying to con you or pull one over on you, and you are trying to help them, like you need to get away from those people. Like they do not care about you.
Yes,
and
isn't helping people who are conning you getting conned essentially? Isn't that essentially the equivalent of getting conned?
Well, I guess.
I want to say maybe like Ernest. I know Ernest has been here for quite some time. We got some new blood in here. Maybe like throw something new that we can get off this specific power structure argument. Like let's move on, Dal. What do you have next in this? Because it's going nowhere.
What do I have?
Why don't we spend the next hour talking about power structures?
Talking about being progressive. It's not power structure.
I mean, we could divert from progressive power structures and go to language with symbolism again, or we could go to history. If anyone has a favorite,
I vote for history.
Do it.
And
Go
and
for
I
it.
was also talking about confirmation bias of it being about the person that you interact with.
I know you've been talking about that for an hour. We all know exactly where you're coming from, dude. Like
No,
I'm saying, like
both sides are confirmation bias. It's not just
we-
the person
yeah.
that you're talking.
you said all this.
We know exactly where you're coming from.
We nailed
Am I
it.
making
like
people
Jesus.
uncomfortable?
We nailed it like Jesus. Let's not resurrect it.
Yeah,
You are making people uncomfortable a little bit.
We know exactly where you're coming from, man. Like we've talked about this. Like we've gone over it for an hour.
I don't think we concluded anything.
Well, I think everyone disagrees with you.
There's not always a conclusion to an argument, Nivek. Sometimes you just like talk about things that you don't come to a
on
solid
YouTube.
conclusion. Yeah.
You can listen to it again. All right, go.
Star Trek or comics or which kind of con were we talking about here?
It's on YouTube. You can go
No,
listen to it again.
Loki, don't do that.
Okay.
Like Chad, Amy, Jimmy Cracksporn
says.
Ernest. I know Ernest has something great to drop in right now. Ernest is like
History?
dying to get in here, and he's gonna like drop some bombs on us.
Drop bombs, Ernest. Drop them fucking bombs.
Dude,
Doctors in here. Loki.
Know anything
Loki,
about
got
magic?
something?
We're
Are we
looking
allowed to
for
talk
magic.
about anything, or what are we talking about?
You mean like how many steel rings are there in a set of 7 welded steel rings, and what are they like? Or
Yeah, we can do that.
We're not talking about illusionism. We're talking. Well, Loki. We're not talking about illusionists. We're talking about the idea of like magic. Crystals having power, or like the Stonehenge having some sort of power to it. That's where we're going. We're just trying to like dig into that.
We're talking psychology.
Like
Loki's got the
for telling who has good crystals on display versus cheap crap. If you can get a display at night and just run down the rack with a good laser pointer.
And you say the crystal isn't magic if it isn't real, but it still influences people to feel better.
What about?
I would say Loki's.
You guys know about
Loki's
crystal skulls?
I'd say Loki's.
You guys ever heard of these things?
Dennis. I would say Loki's humor reminds me of Dennis Miller.
What do you guys know? Do you guys know about crystal skulls? Like,
actually, the people who are really skilled learn to use their own mental imagery in the same way that people who are less skilled may use a piece of mineral as a physical amulet, because you don't necessarily need the physical object to do exactly the same mental discipline and focus tricks, except that some people aren't good at learning without having the physical crutch.
There is this thing, and I think it's known about colloquially amongst contemporary like Wiccan and witch circles. There's this concept of chaos magic, which is essentially the idea that you can invoke the power of Thomas the Train Engine, if that makes you feel better, because that can also hold the same magical power as Yahweh or Jesus Christ. It's all about the meaning of the symbol to you, and not about
That I believe in, because
hold on, Ernest. Hold on, guys. Ernest is making a point here. Go ahead, Ernest.
you see this chaos magic, like that nothing is true, everything is permissible model. I believe in that, because that simply means, which what all magic means in my opinion, is that you are taking the residual affect of associativity and you're trying to incorporate it into what could be made salient, whether it be in the patterns of your behavior or what you want to enact. And so it creates who was saying that? Yeah, it makes symbolism more of a solidification into the environment, and so you can actually engage in the environment as if it were meaningful, or as if it were vital. It turns it into like an interface object, and that's what most magic is. And like the true, like when they say, oh, how to achieve true magic, is essentially like, how can I turn everything into an interface under which I would not have to think, and I could just act, and then everything would move in accordance with the entirety of what I want to have willed. So that's what I think magic is, and it's possible in the sense like you can make anything salient to you. But if you mean magic in terms of throwing fireballs, I don't think you'll get past meditating to change your temperature.
See, well, that is actually the perfect point to what the point Dow was making earlier.
That was exactly a far better put than I could have put it. But
so Dal, I have been in a situation where I've been in a church. Somebody started speaking tongues. I don't know if anybody has been in this situation, but somebody in the pulpit starts speaking tongues.
Once they start like fucking getting bit by snakes, that's when you bow out.
No, straight up speaking tongues. I mean, you're talking about just, and and I was like, what the fuck was that about? So I actually had to go do research because I've heard of it before, but our pastor decided not to pay attention to it, and I've seen people kind of do it and ignore it. I've seen people blessed for it in a ways, but I had one where it was so close to me, and this person was just going off like most of the sermon. I guess they expected some sort of Southern Baptist situation where like everybody's going to go fucking catch them or something because they're just out of control. But it turns out it's actually a technique, and some people actually pay people. Like churches will pay somebody to go, just to bring the spirit, and just to have that feeling to do it. But obviously, I don't think this person did it because the pastor just fucking ignored him the whole time. But it is the weirdest thing. It is by far a really weird thing. Really
I forget like speaking in tongues, like that's specifically like Episcopalians and what's the other branch?
Southern Baptist is definitely one.
No, Southern Baptists do not speak in tongues.
You're talking about California. You're talking about
Southern
California.
Baptist and evangelical definitely do.
Not anyone. Like I went to a bunch of
Baptists do not speak in tongues. My grandfather's a Southern Baptist preacher, and I've been to many Southern Baptist camps all my entire life. Nobody has ever spoken tongues.
Grandfather was a Southern Baptist preacher?
Yeah. You have like Episcopalians and
sorry for you. I apologize for the
what's the religion that they don't believe in having birthdays? Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah, they do that.
So it's like Episcopalians and Jehovah's Witnesses are pretty much the only groups that you ever see speak in tongues. Yeah.
I believe
the
go ahead.
The charismatic churches will speak in tongues.
Yep.
That's what this was like.
Those aren't Southern Baptists. Southern Baptists are a whole different branch.
I live in a like a fairly nice area, right, where everybody wants their like lattes and oat milk and all that. Very white, prominent church where it's not about the Bible, man. It's just about like the feeling of love and Jesus and everything. Like Christian non-denomination, just white bread church, right? And so you go in there and you start, so you go in there and you start spouting half the shit some Southern Baptist does, or you speak in tongues, or Episcopalian shit, like any of that stuff, and it's like you're looked at like, oh, that's not really how we get down here. We're all thinking about what we're gonna go do at a fucking Home Depot here in about half an hour when this fucking guy's at the goddamn stage.
Exactly. Universalists are like very much like the white bread of the Christian world.
Or square Christians. I've heard them called that too.
In the most airhead of them all.
A bit of an archaic description because things changed over the years. There are UUism who are trying to pretend that they should return to being a Unitarian Christian church, which is about a 6% demographic internally, and the humanists, the pagans, and the Eastern religions, basically blow that historic root out of the water and demographics there.
Yeah,
it's actually the churches that I go to with my wife. It's very like, hey, I'm gonna do me, and it's not about questioning anything. Yeah, I still go to church time to time. And it's like it's very much about like, hey, I'm gonna do my thing. I'm not gonna care what you believe in or what you want to do. I'm just here for my own like thing, just to get what I need out of this session. out of the pulpit and out of the preaching, and that's it. Like that's it. If you question anybody, like, "Why do you believe what you believe?" or somebody's like, "Oh, you should believe harder," or whatever. Like all that talk and speak is like it's just rude. It's catty rudeness. Like it's just.
It's honestly pretty beautiful because like my dad's a pretty devout Christian, and we've been to a lot of churches that seemed like that on the outset, and he'll like some drama always comes up eventually where it's weird, and at the last one he actually got accused of thievery, and he knew the guy that stole the money. Like he saw the guy steal money and got it blamed on him. Yeah,
it was Jesus. It was Jesus. But Daltsu, you've been in the churches around here. Am I incorrect to what I'm saying? Have you been to the churches around here, Daltsu?
I've been to mostly bigger ones like Bayside and shit like that.
Stuff. So you know what I mean? It's just very chill. It's just like nobody really questions each other.
Have you guys ever got to like small churches? You know, like so the churches I grew up going to is like there was about 50 people in there tops.
Yeah.
You know.
In Missouri.
That's where I grew up. Yeah, in Missouri. Yeah.
I initially grew up at a Lutheran church, and it was like not only was it only like a couple hundred people, but a majority of the people were over the age of like 70. I would say maybe 50, 60, maybe 50, 60.
Yes.
And so you're like if you're a young kid, so it's like you just gotta fall in line, like it's like an internment camp.
Yeah.
I remember going to church and being like, oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I remember going to church and being like, there's a lot of room just to sleep.
Pew, 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 pew.
That's my favorite meme.
If you go back 140 years ago, you know, the Swedish and Norwegian Lutheran churches were moving bases to the U.S. in order to send missionaries to China. You know, and Scandinavia essentially went gradually atheist and non-religious, even when they were officially Lutheran theocracies. But, and then around 1911, one of the rebellions in China kicked them all out and burned some of the missionary kids' schools, and and ended all that. They decided they were tired of being sold shoes for the shoeless.
Yep. Well, that's when they went to Korea.
Dennis Miller again.
Oh yeah, man! The evangelical presence in Korea is absolutely nuts too.
Insane.
Oh yeah,
it's
huge.
crazy.
With the connections that they built.
I told you guys, my grandfather was a Southern Baptist preacher, but he was also a missionary. Like my dad grew up in Korea pretty much his whole life because my grandpa went to Korea to preach the word.
without like getting too much into like religion itself, or anything like grossly like or grotesque, right? Like bloodletting or something like that. What's the weirdest like ritual like anybody has ever kind of like heard of? It was just like it was just standard, right? But it was just extremely weird.
There's not too many crazy Southern Baptist.
I have a current one that is quite nuts.
Would it count if you said like not trying to whore out for cash any way possible?
Not to pour out for cash.
What does pour out for cash, man?
I think that's mostly pretty normal.
Or is that sacrilege?
God, Loki, do you need money? Fuck.
When I was going to school,
Loki's over here on the fucking sidewalk, just giving hand jobs left and right, being like fucking
$15.
$5. $5. I'll fucking
by the park in town.
If you don't know what a Z job is, you can't afford it.
I mean, if you don't.
So anyway,
I do have one though. Let me start off.
When I got one.
There's one right now. There's one right now on Instagram. There's one right now on Instagram where there are circles of Romanian people that get together, and if they're living around the world, then they message their people back home in Romania to perform the seances and things like that to bless. And it's a huge, massive fucking network where Romanian women will, like I said, Instagram their family members back home to perform these crazy rituals. You can learn about it. I think Vice did a story on it. really trip, and it's an insane rituals that they do with like fire and dancing, and it's like this, and it's all
It's
through
like
Instagram
it's like a
rituals to
raid,
take care
if
of
you
their
will.
people. It's only like 10 or 12 people, but from time to time sometimes it's just a few, but it's these to take care of the traditions and the people that are living in areas that they can't do it because you got to have a huge area, and sometimes you got to kill a few chickens and blood everywhere, and it gets a big old mess. But it's the weirdest thing ever, and it's like done through Instagram.
I was going to say, I'm looking it up right now. It says Romanian witches cast spells over the internet for a fee. Yes. Repeat after me. To be together with who I want, a family of Romanian witches chant via a video call to a client in India paying for a love spell.
There you go. Using modern technology for modern solutions.
That's beautiful.
But
I
it's
actually
not
really think this is
Romanies.
neat.
It's not Romanies. That's Romanis, right? There's a difference between if you're Romanian, if you're Romani.
The cheese.
Romanis are what they call like gypsies. They are a group of people, like a subgroup of people that came out of India many years ago.
Or you're talking about the Roma, I think, aren't you?
The Roma, the Romanis. They're different than Romanians.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right. There's
Yeah.
while Romani have always been travelers, Romanians have always lived in the land of Dacia, somewhere between Eastern Europe and the Balkans. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Neat. Learn something new.
Except for the Irish travelers who are based in North Augusta, South Carolina, and operate an interstate criminal gang with construction and insurance rackets and scams. So they can train Nivik.
The Irish are not real Romanis. They're not real gypsies. I just want to be
not
clear
real
here.
people.
Yeah,
the Irish have no travelers as a weird gang, though, seem like they're heavily Roma influenced.
Yeah, they adopted it, but that's not where it came from. So.
Oh! Can I say one thing?
Can I get my thing out that I was going to say and then bounce it back to you?
Yeah, Jimmy, go ahead.
Yeah. So I went to a private Christian school, and it was independent fundamentalist. So it was like it was pretty much like Southern Baptist. And it was King James version only. But we were not allowed to sit anything on top of the Bible. So yeah, like you would get in trouble. And I can remember being in 5th grade. One of the kids walked by our teacher's desk and sat a book on top of the Bible. And it was just like an immediate scolding.
Yeah.
It was like, you don't put anything on top of the Bible, on top of God's word.
Interesting.
So,
yeah.
It's not God's word, son.
Yeah, right.
So the teacher could be scolded for putting one of those other Bibles on top of a copy of Heinlein's Stranger in a Strange Land, which is the Bible for at least two odd pagan churches.
Yeah.
Do you want to say? Go ahead, Jimmy. Finish your point.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to just say, since we're talking about religion and stuff, and traditions and rituals, there are parts of the Roman Catholic Church in, I believe, Mexico that still does ritual crucifixions, like on themselves as an act of what's the word I'm looking for?
Repentance or
no, not repentance. After you go to confession, you do your
penance.
Yeah, your penance. Yeah, basically, they'll actually
That's nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll actually they don't die, but they'll actually allow people to nail them to a cross.
Oof. It's a little too intense for me, man. That's
it's crazy.
They're probably cheating and not using Roman style if they're just doing it as a survivable BDSM ritual.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're not like having their legs broken.
Jesus.
Nothing that you wouldn't find at an extreme version of a Folsom Street Festival once they reopen from COVID.
Yeah. They're not like getting the
Official
cat of
combat boots,
nine tails out.
placing on pulleys inverted.
I mean,
What's the conclusion of our discussion?
There's no conclusion, man. We're just having a discussion. There's no conclusion here, man.
I had
we're now
that
gonna...
he's going to instruct everybody in how to run the glory hole in the barrel, isn't he?
I had an erotic dream last night with men in it, and now I don't know what to do.
Pickle barrel.
It's called
if you don't know what the pickle barrel is, it's basically you put a dude in a barrel with a bunch of holes, and everybody just shoves their dick in holes. It's called the pickle barrel.
Okay.
This is like.
Does it have to be a dude in the
like,
barrel? Is that?
There has to. It's the same thing. I don't think it's something that actually exists. It's something that you hear about in the army. Same thing with like the ookie cookie. Like nobody. I don't think anybody actually does the ookie cookie.
Right. Okay.
So the idea of the ookie cookie is like you have like 10 dudes sitting around in a circle.
Oh, I've heard this.
Everybody's jerking off.
Jeez.
The last one to come onto the cookie has to eat it. Like that. This doesn't fucking happen. But this is like the shit that people talk about the fucking army for some reason because there's a lot of fucking homoerotic homoerotic asphyxiation.
For a few minutes, and I come back, and Pangburn is here, and we're talking about what?
I didn't even
talked
start
about that when I was
We're talking
15.
about cookies. Yeah. Chad's like, hey, I know what a nookie cookie is.
I'm just like, Jesus, where did this conversation go? I haven't spoken long.
God damn.
Oh, God. That's hilarious.
I leave
But
for 2 minutes.
I know. We need your guidance, Daltsu. It just goes downhill when you're gone.
So, have you guys? Okay, what you guys have talked about witches and
Ejaculates.
I'm actually really interested in.
Yeah, we kind of started talking. We've been pretty modern the whole time, looking at like tarot and stuff like that, all the way through stage magic a little bit, and we just started getting into the more, or we were trying to get into the more esoteric stuff like Wicca and I think chaos magic was brought up, and then we started going off on trying to figure out who was being a bad actor and who was being a good actor, and we kept trying to get it back on course, but we were getting derailed a little bit.
Have you guys talked about the what I would call immoral people who charge people money to talk to their dead?
We got heavily into that.
The question there is
we had trouble getting at him.
who would be helped by the theatrics of an actual counselor who uses occultish tricks to help people can be distinguished by a potential client who would be low skilled or traumatized from a scamming abusive predator like that. And it included, it's a difficult thing for the people who most need those skills to be able to do.
Interesting.
I think we're.
I wanted to discuss the factors
now.
It's a lovely filter.
Holy moly! Who is that?
That's
Amy. Goodness gracious! What is going on?
What is something different with Amy?
We have a witch one, but my friend here wanted me to use this filter.
Holy shit! Holy moly!
Creepy.
Crazy.
So we have to ask the question: did she finally turn her filter off, or is this a filter that has been turned on?
This is really how I look.
So what's the little lady's name? How you doing, little girl?
This is absurd. Only on
Hi.
Occult night.
I can tell you about psychic powers. I don't like talking about it, but I can tell you some stuff.
Oh, you ate all the popcorn.
I ate all the popcorn. Yeah. I sent a
so
in the text chat. I sent a ESP trainer app, and they say if you get like 12, it's like 24 chances, and you have to like pick the color.
What is ESP?
You have to pick the color with the picture behind it.
ESP
Yes.
is extrasensory
And if you get
perception.
12,
Oh.
yes. And if you get 12 out of 24 consistently, they want you to write the developer. And we were in Chick-fil-A and eating lunch, and I had her try it, and just in between bites, she got 12 out of 24. That was my all-time high score with like super focusing and taking like my time on every single one. And while she was eating lunch and chatting with her brother, she got 50% of them right.
I gotta say, like, sometimes your little girl like moves her head and like we can see her face a little bit, and then it turns back into that like fucking filter. It's like that's a cute looking little girl. I'm like, oh shit.
She's got dimples. She's super cute.
Does it work on pets too?
It works on my white cat. Go get Kitty. It's hilarious. This is the one I wanted to use. Like it?
Yes.
Yas queen.
Does this one work? Yeah, this is
Oh my god.
Witchy. So Kit.
I don't know. You're going a little batty there. So you're going a little batty there.
Well, the big question is, do you guys have butter in your popcorn? Right, butter.
Butter. It's an organic popcorn.
Any sort of toppings? Just straight popcorn.
Salt and butter.
No top. Okay, yeah, I got butter. Yeah, as long as you got butter, a little butter, salt, good.
Do you see the cat?
Yeah.
He's got to be looking at the camera just so, but.
Oh yeah, that cat is not
a new popcorn from Yorma's Choice. You know, now that Yorma Kekkonen is going out on the road again with hot tuna.
You know what? You know what I realize is going on right now? This is the Pangburn Hangout episode directed by Stephen King.
Yeah.
You wish.
Also, maybe not Stephen King, but yes, Stephen Lynch. Yeah.
or a Goosebumps episode from R.L. Stine.
Yeah.
I thought someone was going to bring back Edgar Casey.
Oh, I like him.
We should talk about spooky magic. What about like voodoo?
He was like an intelligent scammer, though. But who did a tiny amount of actual, human research and like the alkalizing effect of certain foods. But he managed to convince one of his sons to become an engineer in order to sort out the hucksterism from the reality and Dad's work over the years.
Well, to your point, Dal, like voodoo is still like practiced a lot by people in the Caribbean. That's an interesting realm to go down.
And does anyone in this room think that they have special powers?
Ooh, me.
I do. Yeah, I know for a fact I have special powers.
My fingers are double jointed, and so I can bend like that first knuckle.
I have the special power to drive 125 through school zones. That's my special power.
Yeah.
Hey, I can do that. Well, no, my car won't go that fast.
We have to start a thread of if we were to assign, like in a world where superheroes were a thing, if we were to assign what each of our superpower would be. We got to get that thread going. Like, what would Scott's superpower be? Probably like.
Actually, when you did
Hulk smash.
when you were putting up comic memes that weren't familiar to me, but back a few months ago, a real life friend who saw the one you put up for me said that was one of the more fitting ones of the choice in that comic meme.
Yeah.
I was Batman on that. Bruce was the Hulk.
Who was Loki? I can't remember who Loki
Daltsu
was.
was Loki. Yeah.
No, I was
Bruce was
Spider-Man.
the Hulk.
Yeah.
Oh, you were Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying who was Loki?
Doolittle
I
was
can't remember.
Dr. Octavius. I think that one is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that is pretty because nuclear.
I could see that. Yeah.
Was that the one you assigned me, or?
I think I gave that one to
But in real life, though, I look a lot like Lou Ferrigno, so I might be more fitting as the Hulk.
I don't think we could take the Hulk from Bruce.
He'd get too angry.
Like I would say, me personally, like if I rated myself, I might be along the lines of Loki because
got them
like
jokes.
just make jokes and
right.
Of course, one of the powers in Loki is a form of chaos magic, where when you can't use truth to power successfully, or you're dealing with abusive institutional systems, introducing chaos to reduce the functionality or efficiency of a system that should simply be shut down, ideally, is one of the ways of mitigating harm.
Well, I thought wasn't Loki a jokester? I thought that was like his whole thing.
Loki had a lot of things. Loki is a guy with many interests, and a girl with many interests. But I don't actually know a whole lot about Loki other than
so the only thing I know about him is he was like quote unquote the jokester god. Isn't that right?
Or trickster. Yeah. The figure that shows up a lot in Native American culture too, and other forms like coyote.
Yeah, there's a lot of reference to the jokester and trickster being like the fool. Instead of being the Joker, it's the fool in Eastern mythology. That's kind of takes that same sort of place.
And if you notice his behavior in the new movies, the new Avengers movies, he's always behind the scenes, and it's you expect him to have a more prominent role.
By the way, Amy just realized that most of us have facial hair in real life, and she was missing it.
Oh yeah,
I'm coming after you, brother.
You would expect him to have a more prominent role in those movies, but I watched the whole 3 or 4 of them that were came out.
Jimmy, have you watched the TV show yet? The new Loki TV show? It's really good so far.
Finish. You got to let me finish. But I mean, the whole time he was very low key. So.
That
was
fantastic.
That would have been way better if I wasn't interrupted.
Nobody interrupted you. That joke would have been so awesome.
That would have been sick.
God damn it, Scott!
I can
must have hold his Joker. That was sad.
I didn't know you were going to a joke, man. If I knew you were going to a joke, I wouldn't have said shit.
It actually was funnier to do it at the same time. The timing just worked out.
Well,
that's
fucking a little bit low-key.
And it's only thing you talk about a chaos model that you have it presented more quite doing it here.
Ooh, we're this is like
that kind of vibe.
Right. Kermit. I can remember Kermit. I can.
Somebody need to bring us to the
That was
definitely.
I'm trying.
Well, yeah, you Loki.
So the one guy's
like, you brought up the Marvel thing, and I was like, oh man, you got to see the new show because it's really good.
Spoilers.
Oh yeah.
See it if only for the architect.
You say Loki get higher of sea than the point. Go there.